that is imperative and that is inherent in the conversations. So I want you to make sure that you have your questions fueling, right? This is really about y'all. We're going to talk, but we want to be a resource, okay? So I want to start on the right, on the far right. We have Davidson Boswell, who is a comedian, who is a writer, and who is a high quality white. Good job. Good job. He's like, fuck. No pressure. No pressure. Davidson also has one of the greatest vocabularies, I think. And for me to say that, y'all know it's some shit. So pay attention, write the words down when he says them. To my right, we have, you're LA born and bred, right? Long Beach born and bred, Christina Brown. California, not, yeah, West Coast, West Height. Christina Brown is not only a comedian, but a scholar, and who is really, I feel, doing great work on the digitals of dispelling the diasporic divisions that are really helping in the effort to basically divide and conquer. So big ups to Christina Brown. We're going to go to the far left. We have Anjelica Langdon. Everybody loves Angie. Anjelica Langdon is not just simply an organizer, but honestly a bright light in a dark time. She is also an incredibly effective logistical, like not just an organizer of people, but an organizer of events. And this would not have happened, the AmandaLand Summit, without Angie Langdon. She is also what's the word I'm looking for? She is also a comic without a stage. So therefore, there needs to be a People's Forum comedy night formed that is hosted by Anjelica Langdon. Remember, I said it, it's now on record because this one right here is coming for your jobs. Last but not least, we have Claudia de la Cruz. Claudia wears many hats. Claudia is an ordained minister. Oh. Right. See? That's what I said. I was like, wait, holla. Claudia is also a veteran organizer and was also the PSL's candidate for president in 2024. Claudia is also a really amazing mom. Like, her son is really bad it, okay? And in a time where, like, I think there's like a struggle for folks between, like, do I just try and protect my kid from the realities of things, or do I, like, teach them things? I think so many folks find, like, that to be a very difficult thing. But what I love about the fact that I know that Claudia is doing that is because we did What Would the Ancestors Say here the other day. I asked people to name somebody that should talk to Clarence Thomas, and her son yelled out, Chairman Fred Hampton! He's 10. He's 10. Chairman, right. So I don't have kids, but you doing the goddamn thing. Claudia is also one of the founders of this place, the TPF. I know the T in TPF stands for the, but I just like to say the TPF. Right, that's the TPF, but it's the T, you know what I mean? So the People's Forum. So that is our panel for today. You are very fortunate. And we are very fortunate to have you all here in community with us. So my first question is, just to start the conversation, like, where do you see, particularly when we're seeing, like, what's his name, Kimmel. When we're seeing Jimmy Kimmel as a comedian, right, like, get silenced. We're seeing, we saw Colbert get canceled. But then at the same time, we're seeing, like, organizing being done on the alt-right around continuing to silence voices and say that, you know, you can only talk a certain way about certain things. Where do you all see the intersection between organizing and the arts as a necessary intersection? Like, where do you see arts and organizing as a necessary intersection?
Yeah, okay. So I just got back from Washington, D.C., going into these like banquet halls that the rich are throwing for themselves still. They're like, man, we are killing it right now. You know, they like are loving themselves still. Fascism is here. And basically a bunch of me and other comedians just like stood up and started yelling at them and making fun of them to their face. You know what I mean? So I think the way that they gatekeep this is they charge like $500 for a dinner, right? So what you need to do is you need to join an organization. Everybody chips in $5. Put on a suit, go there, and be like, "You guys are fucking goofy." You know what I mean? Like, and they can be touched. You know what I mean? And like the nexus of art and organization is making rich people feel ridiculous because they are. You know? All right, yeah.
Fair. Because comedians have a skill of roasting.
I know, that's so good. Damn, my first instinct when I saw what happened to Colbert and Kimmel was the fall of the rich white man. I don't know. I did. Because it wasn't anything that, like, I wasn't like, right. Because that happened to me. I was like, girl, be fucking serious. You know, like, it just hits you finally. So I think the intersection of arts and organizing, definitely, it doesn't start there. Like, you're part of the institution. I think the intersection of arts and organizing is outside of institution. It has to be, because you get... I came into comedy because I got fired and doxxed online due to a joke I made. And that... What was the joke? All I said was... no, it was so light. Not even my best work. It really pissed me off. It was before I started comedy. I was like, you know when white people look at you on the street like they're afraid of you, right? I was like, don't you ever want to just like... a little bit. I like to like make them feel like all of a sudden, I'm on Libs of TikTok. I'm on PragerU. Yeah, before the wave. But they doxed me, and then you know I did say another joke. Okay. That one was a little more. I was getting called a bunch of slurs online. I was like, what's going on, man? And then someone was like, oh, they posted you, and I was like, because I bring in context. I was like, well, I'm talking about epigenetic trauma, which is like the fear, the stuff that happens through genes. So I was like, I do think white people, you are genetically predispositioned to be afraid of black people due to epigenetic trauma. There was a study of rats, and you know, white people and rats have a lot in common. Tough crowd. No? Oh, okay. I thought that was funny. My job didn't. So, yeah, they got me fired. And at that point, I was like, fuck, yo, I either have to be silent or I have to work with, because I was just about to get my master's when that happened. Okay. In international relations diplomacy. So I was like, long-winded way of saying that was the moment that I was like, oh, art is a way to express and to speak truth to a power in an uncomfortable way. And that was my like start into doing it.
It is on. It's on? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
I think you raised a really important question. And I think, you know, when I started my organizing journey, I came in through Cuba solidarity work at IFCO Pastors for Peace, right? And part of my job was the comms and looking through the news to say, oh, this is happening in Cuba, that's happening in Cuba, right? But what I found out, it was a light bulb for me, because I was reading articles from CNN and Fox trying to see what are they saying, and I found out that they were saying the same thing, right? So this idea that these two things are forces against each other is manufactured. It's the same article word for word. You can do it yourself. Go into the unspeakable thing, because they support genocide. Type it in, right. and research your thing and compare the articles. It'll be word for word the exact same thing. They'll just change like communist run to dictator led, and it'll be the same thing. And I think it speaks to the need for us to search out the independent media outlets that actually report what's going on. So whenever they're canceling Jimmy Kimmel or whoever, like, I like that that's inciting people to say, oh, this seems strange. Why would they do that, right? And I hope you investigate that further, right? Because then you'll kind of see, oh, actually, now they're just making everything lean more one way, but it was already leaning that way. It was just under disguise, right? So we need to be looking at things like Breakthrough News. We need to be looking at independent outlets that actually report on what's going on, because we know what's going on. We know what's happening now in DC. We know what's happening in Chicago, what's about to be unleashed in New Orleans, and there's barely any media on that, right? So we need to make sure that as, you know, the people, we have the power to support those outlets, reshare monetarily, however it is. We need to make sure that those are at the top of the feed, and we defeat the algorithm so people have access to that.
Can I just add to that, though, that I feel like the intersection of arts in those spaces I want it to be a lot more prevalent. Like, I feel like one of the things that is really harmful to us is that when we think about news, we think of it in one particular way, and that particular way has actually been formed by the actual system that we're against, right? Which is that, like, you get the news and you get it this way, and it's delivered in this fashion, and it's very serious. With that tone of voice. With this tone of voice. And then, like, you know, but then even when you have, like, Daily Show or John Oliver, like, it's still being delivered by the same, you know, kind of like format. It just has a little chuckle to it. And so, you know, the edutainment factor that I feel like is apparent in all of our indigenous histories, right? Like, all of our indigenous histories had edutainment as a part of the way that it existed. Like, whether it was through tribal dance, whether it was through griot, whether it was through, like, you know, arts and crafts and, you know, things of that nature. Like, I feel like we need to continue to, like, expound upon using the artists' minds in those spaces, because artists also think beyond a grid, you know what I mean, that's, like, in place. We're weirdos.
Creative. The intersection between art and organizing. I think that anyone who fails to understand how culture just generally plays a role in organizing people does not know what the hell they're doing. Because, you know, folks like, if you look at Amilcar Cabral, I love Amilcar Cabral. An educator in many ways, a revolutionary, a militant, understood that culture is both the fruit and it also is what generates new people. So it's not only a product, it actually, the process of creating art and culture generate new people. With that definition in mind, to think about the liberal milieu and to think about the institutions, right, that they're being canceled on, is to understand that shit was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because we don't own those institutions.
Right.
Because those institutions in no way, shape, or form are producing the type of culture that edify our people's understanding of themselves. They are the liberal, the most tolerant for that system. And what is happening now is that we have an authoritarian government openly, key word, that is saying we are not going to tolerate the liberal milieu. So those of you who are further to the left should also watch out. But we've been watching out for a long time. Because to say the level of shit that these folks are saying on TV right now, we've been seeing it on the streets for decades. And so I think it's important for us to have that understanding. When we think about those who produce culture, and I want to use culture more than art, because culture is language. Yes. Culture is media. Culture is what we write. Culture is how we relate to each other. Culture is creating a banner. It is comedy. It is the things that we produce every day. That is culture. And when we define it that way, we all understand ourselves as creative. And that is the worst thing that could happen to capitalism. Because if that is no longer gatekept, that means that they will have to figure out how to exploit it. Yeah. They've figured it out by highlighting certain people that are able to promote certain ideas, certain values, certain principles. And this is the time when the revelation has to come to us that these institutions, whether it is a university, whether it is the media outlet, whether it is the music industry, none of that shit works for us. None of it. It hasn't, and it won't. Which means that we need to create our own spaces, and that we need to be able to, and that we need to be able to utilize every platform that we have access to, which, by the way, when people talk about TikTok, or they talk about, X, or they talk about all these things that are owned by these billionaires, but have been created by working class people, engineers. Because that's also part of capitalism. They rob the collective action, the collective labor, the collective value that makes this one billionaire a billionaire. It's not their brilliance, because God knows Elon Musk is not that brilliant. Right? None of these folks are. So they rob that value, that collective value. And I think it's important for us to understand that if we have the capacity to build our own organizations, if we have the capacity to build our own independent media, if we have the capacity to utilize these social media platforms that were created by working class people to serve working class people, we're already winning.
And it fucks up the scarcity mindset, right? Because it makes it, because like the other day, I had to file my New York taxes, and my accountant is an amazing Nigerian woman named Arume, okay? Arume. And Arume was like, Amanda, so I'm just going to show you how to do the taxes so that you don't even have to pay me. That's what we're talking about. I don't want to have to give you more person to pay when you can do it yourself. So I'm just going to show you. Share your screen, share your screen, share your screen. But stuff like that, that's a big deal, right? Because they make these systems difficult so that you have to buy into an industry, right? So that small thing that may have seemed like whatever, but that's a big deal, because really I was going to have to pay her. And guess what? I was able to do it, y'all. I did it.
I think that speaks to the collaboration of creating, though. And one of the things I actually really love about stand-up is it feels, or performing in general, feels like creating, collaborating with the audience. Oh, yeah. And it's like alchemizing of energy in the room, and being vulnerable with an audience, and having the audience be vulnerable with you, and getting the output of laughter with whatever input, and even disagreement happening while performing, or it's such a I literally feel like I'm transmuting energy when I'm creating, and that's the way I create. But we don't have to create everything, and you don't have to play every role. Look, stick to the stuff you know. That's right. High School Musical was a little racist when they said it, but we all have gifts.
Shut up and dribble, but
shut up and dribble, but if you're good at the dribble,
yeah, dribble,
someone else can talk while you dribble. And I think wrong messenger. But the messenger.
Fair.
But it genuinely I don't gotta do everything, and you're not supposed to. And I think when I tapped in to what does it feel like my natural gift is, not what I felt like society wanted me to do, not what I felt like academia wanted me to do, not what I felt like the degrees wanted me, not even what I felt like my parents wanted me to do, because they grew up in it. Well, you need to do this, and that. Tapping into number one, my ancestral gifts. What were people that before me, what were they doing? And what naturally came to me, I was I don't need that capitalistic mindset of you have to work and it has to be hard and you have to do it. And I'm why am I'm naturally good at this thing. I can find other people who are naturally good at creating this thing, and then we come together and create this thing, and then you create this thing, and before you know it, we have a space, or we have a piece of art, or we have, they braided maps into heads. What are we talking about? That could, I don't know where you be going, but if I look, that's going somewhere, But that is a map. It's so silly. It's in our culture. So when you think I'm saying when I started looking back and being like, what were they doing? They're building maps in songs. They're building maps on our heads. Like, we literally just have to create. And it makes me think of that. Oh, I love this quote. And I honestly did not understand it. I've been watching Rent. Anyone like Rent? What?
Are you just discovering Rent?
Oh, no. I discovered Rent a while ago.
I was like,
but
I just got real old.
absolutely
in that
not.
second.
No. Obsessed with Rent when I was age. No.
In my
Obsessed.
house, I'll be your shelter. Just pay me back with 1,000 kisses. Be my lover, and I'll cover you. Boom, 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 yeah. Okay. Also, just a side note, every time I come to the city, I say, New York City. Center of the universe. Times are shitty, but I'm certain they can't get worse.
So, if you know La Vie Boheme, the song. Hello.
La vie bohème. You can. I'll just do this behind you while you're talking.
He says, Mark, in the song, Jonathan Larson writes it, right? But he says, the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. Woo! La Vie Bohème.
Viva la vie
Bohème. Now I'm 10. I'm like, that's so great. I relate to this so much. I don't know why.
Yeah. You're 10. I'm 16 in a Honda Civic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what, or I'm 11. That's when we sang it at our choir. But I was like,
We sang it at the Perkins, where, at the Perkins restaurant where Tiger Woods was banging this restaurant. Yeah, that same Perkins.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So many things were happening at that Perkins. A lot was happening at that Perkins. Go ahead.
Good. But, I'm looking at Rent, like, at that age, like, this is so good. I don't know why I relate to this. Now I'm polyamorous and queer, but, but I swear, what'd you say? Someone said something.
No one
Oh.
said anything. That was your brain.
That was my brain. I heard a little.
That was your trauma.
That was my trauma. I thought someone was going to be like, obviously, and I was going to agree with you. Like, I know, right? It exuded off of me. But a couple months ago, and I always revisit the soundtrack, and I heard the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation, and it was like ding, 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 and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get that shit tatted on me, because it really made me think that war is something that destroys. War and peace, but I'm like, peace could be liberal, peace could be wanting to keep the peace, right? But creation literally just from nothing, and it builds, and war destroys something that's built and puts it to nothing. So that has completely changed my perspective about where art and organizing, intersect.
My father ain't shit, but I always have to preface with that. But one time he has said, because broken clocks do be right ever so often. And I had called him because I was like, I'm clairvoyant and I don't know where it's coming from. So I just wanted to find out from you, if it's on that side of the family. And he was like, well, yes, but also you're an artist and artists do God work. And I was like, I ain't never heard this man say nothing about no God, but carry on, carry on. And he said, artists do God work. They create something from nothing. And he was like, if you have that mindset, then you aren't hampered by the grid, right? And he was like, the grid is what's given to us as our limitations. And then another time I was this is gonna sound like a flex, but it's not. But another time I was talking to Herbie Hancock, and he was like, it is a flex, right? And he was like, Amanda, everybody's an artist. And at the time, though, I wasn't thinking how we're thinking. And I was like, what you mean? Because I was like, it felt like him saying everybody's an artist, takes away my, my cachet as an artist. What do you mean everybody's an artist? And he was like, because everybody has to create ways to exist. everybody has to create ways to exist. And he was like, in that regard, we have to consider that, and that all art doesn't have to look like being on canvas, you know, that all art doesn't have to look like, you know, the typical way that we consider art in like the visual form or the audio form. And I thought that was really fascinating, and it speaks to what you all are saying, right? Like the intersection of art and organizing is such an imperative like way of just thinking about life as an existing space of creating, right? And being active in how we're fighting this fascism is going to require creativity, right? And I know Davidson, like, I want to hear from all of you, like, where do you find yourself having to consider new methods in this time?
Okay, so this is to your point, like, censorship can come from not just official channels, it can come from people in your life. They expect you to like put a layer of artifice around something. They want you to like do it through irony or be nice about it. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, no, I'm going to strip away the artifice. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. And then other people are going to find me through that. Like you were saying, like transmuting like your energy into other people. And I'm white. I don't know if that is shocking to you guys or not, but
wait, but so, it's not just that you're white. It's that you look like a Prince Charming from a Disney film.
All right.
Like,
well,
I think that's a really important aspect.
All right. Yeah.
Y'all see the teeth. You see the teeth.
I got the face of the enemy, so it is like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it shocks people when they hear me say it, you know what I mean? Because Rosa Luxemburg talked about this. Like, a revolutionary act is just talk about the world as the way you see it, you know what I mean? It's like, this is literally what is happening right now, and the fact that you're going to put your head in the sand is disgusting, you know what I mean? And this will shock people's consciousness, because everyone is representative of some community, right? So you don't have to have 50,000 followers. You can have 5 followers, and if you convert one person, and that person talks to another, then all of a sudden there's a wildfire breaking out that the administration, any official channel, and it does suck because, you know, my family is very conservative and they're like, oh, you're ruining your life. I have improved my life inestimably because I started talking about this stuff.
Inestimably.
Right, but like, not really, but maybe. I don't know, maybe. But I'm just saying, like, and it will like, it'll send like almost like a pulse of energy through you when you finally say the truth, when you've been trying to like say it in all these like couched ways for your whole life, and then it's gonna shock people. But if they love you, they'll stay around, and if they don't, then you didn't need them in your life anyway. You know? Yeah. So.
I mean, to the question, I think there isn't a better moment to organize than now. Precisely because it's been revealed just how brutal the system is. And the pace with which people's mind is developing is something that I personally, in my 30+ years of organizing, have never seen.
Flex.
Flex. Very proudly. And with a lot of struggles, too, because there was a moment where people spoke about Palestine. Ain't nobody care about Palestine. There were moments when we were out there organizing against the war in Iraq, and people were like, actually, you know, we need to bring up Palestine too. And a lot of liberal anti-war movement folks were like, this is not the time. You know, 9/11 and all that. And so the connections people made to the kafia like, we're not there anymore. And I want people to kind of like grasp the greatness of that. And that is due to the levels of mobilizations, to the revealing of the truth on social media, to young people who said, we're not gonna take this shit no more. You're not gonna miseducate our asses no more. And utilizing all of the tools that they had in their hands to be able to put forth the reality. We have to be conscious of that, because what these folks attempt to do every day is rob us from those victories. And you'll hear but why mobilize? Because we've been mobilizing for a whole lot. And that is what's gotten us to a point where people are able to see the pull. There's another pull. It's not the Democrats or the Republicans. It's not the liberals. There's an actual revolutionary pull that's thinking and understanding things differently. Now, when the only thing we do mobilize, then that becomes a problem. We have to build institutions. Again, I'll say that again. We need to build organization. If those mobilizations are not connected to building a movement, then we're not doing anything. Because we also have to learn from our past mistakes. Think about Ferguson. Think about the George Floyd rebellions. We failed to build clear political organizations.
We built celebrities.
Exactly. Who have gone on tours and gotten $500 million, I don't know what, houses. Right? Okay. So, so we need to build organizations. We need to build politically clear communities that understand and know the level of brutality of the system, that the system is not their friends. How do we utilize different methods? We cannot create new methods if we don't know the methods of the past. And it's not whether we only do social media or do canvassing, we have to do both. It's not only about sending emails, it's also about getting on a phone call with somebody, having somebody feel your voice. We've lost the ability to do that. We have a whole generation of people that only text and abbreviations.
Listen, Anjelica Langdon, down at the end of this row here, called all the members of this summit.
Yes.
Physically called them. I was like, what you mean she called them?
Yes.
She called them and was like, are you coming?
As she should, because relationships, how many of you trust? How many of you trust now that the next event that Anjelica calls you for is something worth going to? That's organizing. Texting don't do it. Emails don't do it.
Right.
It's knocking on that door and having that conversation. And I'll say this, I have a 10-year-old son. This week was a hard week for both of us. He picked up the Black Panther graphic novel here at 1804. Like 2 weeks ago. I'm looking at Amanda because she was here when he picked it up.
I bought it too.
And he read in one of the chapters that there were anti-lynching laws that were passed in 2020. And he said that with a lot of pride, right? Like, wow, this was passed. And he said that 2 days after the lynching of Trey Reed. And it was a moment where I needed to decide whether this was going to be a teachable moment for my kid and I, or if I was going to protect them from the evils of the world, protect him. And I had to have a real serious conversation with him about laws being passed, laws we fought for, because they didn't give them to us. We fought for these laws that are not being respected, regarded, or implemented. Because ultimately, the system that we live in is a capitalist, white supremacist system, regardless of who is in that Oval Office. And so in that conversation, my kid was, he cried. And then he said, I understand now. The Black Panthers aren't history. He said, the Black Panthers aren't history. The Black Panthers are today. And I said, they are today until we win. And so how do we utilize in our homes the news, the things our kids are reading, the bullshit TV they're watching, because they're watching it. I mean, my kid is a kid, so I sit there and watch Marvel with him, but somebody needs to interpret that for him and with him. Right. He listens to all sorts of music. He loves him some Cardi B. I'm like, I love some Cardi B too, but let's talk about that.
He's not getting away with nothing. I know.
This means that we cannot allow institutions that hate us to raise our kids.
Let me tell you, when I worked at VH1, I was doing a show at VH1. I was doing we were doing like a pilot for a show that was going to be like basically kind of like a talk soup type of show, right? Where I would talk about like the news of like the media as well as like pop culture of the week. And it's still me hosting the show, right? So I'm going to be trying to sneak stuff in, right? But the stuff that I snuck in wasn't even the kind of stuff that they flagged. And I remember when we got our notes back, one of the notes was we had a joke about a BLT. There was a joke that included a BLT, a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And one of the notes was, can you guys use a blacker sandwich? This was written. Can you use I'm like, a McRib? Like, what is?
Pulled pork.
There's always receipts. They do not care. There's always receipts. Can you use a blacker sandwich? And I can't remember what the other note was, but the person who was the executive producer was a white woman from Belgium whose name was actually Joke. Like, that's her actual name, Joke. But she was not here for the bullshit. And so she came back at them and was like, this is 1,000% racist. None of this makes sense. And we're not going to comply by this. And they replied back and said, you need to understand that, this is VH1, you need to understand that our audience is 18 to 24-year-old black women that don't read. Whoa. So we need to give them so we need to give them what they want. And what they want is not what you're giving them. And when we actually, so we were also like, fuck that. And so when we actually did the show, we did the pilot, we did 2 tapings in that one day, okay? So the first taping is like your tech taping, but they still record it. And then the second one is another taping just for good measure. In the first taping, I had to tell a story about, just to give you some timing, Rob Kardashian and Blac Chyna. So these were the kinds of capitulations I had to make, right? Like, okay, I will mention it, but I'm just gonna mention it. In the second taping, while I was mentioning it, they put Rob Kardashian making it rain on Blac Chyna twerking behind me. And I didn't know this was happening until someone in the audience was pointing and I turned around and saw it on the monitor behind me. And after the show, I was like in my dressing room crying because I knew, oh, we can't do this anymore. And I remember Joke actually came, this is some real like, I'm a high quality white shit. She came to me. We will not support this. And no, she didn't have a kente cloth stole on. But that just gives you a frame of reference, though, for like, where these people are coming from. And, you do have to actively challenge it as viewers, as people in the room, or else they'll just keep going.
I think on the question of methods, right, I think we need to survey the room. When we say the word organize or organizing, yes. Do people know what we're saying? Do you? Okay,
she's like not asking rhetorically. She's asking literally.
I'm asking, right? You can do through head nods. You don't have to. Okay, because that's important. Operational definitions are important, right? Because I was organizing for 2 years before I understood what I was doing. Okay, I was doing all the things, and I was like, oh, okay. My boss keeps saying this word organize, and now I'm getting it. Right? And I think it's really important because organizing often gets mixed in with other things, right? Mutual aid, direct service, advocacy, activism. These are all spaces that we participate in. These are all important under the system that we're under, right? They do provide for our people, but organizing, right, means building power, right? People with the same understanding, with the same study, with the same goal, right? Coming together to wield their power against whatever it is that they're struggling for, right? So when we say organize, it's a very specific thing, right? It's not just, oh, I went to that mobilization, oh, I went to that. Those are tactics of organizing, right? Those are tactics. So when someone pushes back at you and they say, oh, you've been out in the streets for 2 years and nothing has happened. No, people have been pulled into organizations because they were interested. Those are tactics. That is not, the goal is not we're going to march until this thing happens. It's not going to happen that day, right? But what we're doing is raising consciousness. We're pulling people in and we're pulling them and putting them into power. Because unless we are all on the same page and organizing together, we cannot win. Right? And everything that's ever been won for the people of this country, right, has been organized, right? So it's not like the civil rights movement. People just got up and said, hey, I heard they're going out on the street. No, people were calling. People were texting. They weren't texting. People were... I wasn't there. They were sending pigeons. People were out there. They were like, hey. I saw that pigeon pass by. I think we're going in the streets. But people were communicating and talking and compelled, right? That's the other thing. I think a lot of people say, oh, I don't know, I'm not. You are living under this system, right? And you typically don't have the things that you need, meaning that every day you have to organize around your life. Every day you have to figure out, how's my kid going to get picked up? Who's going to feed my cat? How am I going to get to work? Because the MTA is late again, right? You have to organize around your life, and you rely on your community. So you have the skills built into you due to this system, right? But the situation is you have to join an organization, and there's a million out there, right? And so when we say build power, when we say organize, we mean actually working together cooperatively in an organization. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, just to go on that point, you'll be amazed at how much intersectionality there is between every movement at this point. Palestine has like truly liberated people's minds because everybody's wondering right now, how the hell was this allowed to happen? You know what I mean? And the only way it can happen is capitalism, right? So, and that connects everything. Climate, right? The organizations that I've organized through are very climate focused, right? But they are also incredibly interested in ending the genocide in Gaza, racial equality, because all of that has to, Elon Musk is poisoning people right now in Memphis, right? So all of that, you don't have to, if you see an organization and it doesn't feel like it resonates with what you care about the most, I guarantee you they also care about what you care about, right? Because they are organizers.
I mean, and to that point, I think it's important, don't look for the perfect organization, because you're not going to find the perfect organization. Not under the system and not under any system, because people are not perfect. And everyone brings the baggage of having lived and having been built into the system. And so I think in many ways, we live in a society that has consistently told us that organization is bad. But we have a billionaire class that has been organized forever. And they have the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, Congress, Senate, the Pentagon. They are highly organized. We think often as Trump, or they make us think as Trump as this glitch. And he is not. He is the product of the system. He was built exactly to do what he's doing. He's playing his role. And so we need to understand that high level of organization and figure out ways in which we can organize ourselves in a committed, responsible, intelligent, sophisticated way, because we must. And so in many ways, when we're thinking about organizing, people do, it gets me real fucked up when people are like, I do the work, this work. What work? What is this work? What work? If you are a leader.
They tweeting.
Listen. If you are a leader, if you are an organizer, what that actually means is that you are organizing people, not events. You're organizing human beings. Human beings to identify their collective power to take political and economic power. That's what it is. Because we could also say, we're organizing for power, and power could look in many different ways to many different people. We're talking about assuming the responsibility of developing other leaders that are committed, that are politically clear, and that are willing to take collective action in struggle to gain political and economic power.
How do y'all feel about, this probably is going to mix into your answer. How do y'all feel about the concept of electoral politics as a source for power? Because I get a lot of people that will be like, well, Amanda, you're saying all of this and you're doing this, but you're not running for office, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that there's a lot of people who still see that space as the resource of power.
No.
No, I'm asking because that's a real thing that I think when I feel like when I challenge it, people are like, well, you're just thinking fantastically, right? You're thinking in a utopia, this is ideological, but
What's wrong with that?
Oh, that's true.
I'm sorry. That shit pisses me off. What is wrong with, oh God, sorry, they got me riled up. Because
Get riled.
Because
When it's up and it's up and it's up,
it
then
gets
it's stuck.
I think
When it's up, then
one
it's
of the
up,
things
then
I've been
it's
thinking
up.
about a lot recently is I even among leftist spaces is that I had to remind folks and myself, we're doing this for people, not for theory.
Ooh, the theory thing, B.
Not for Marx is gone, baby. He's not here. Didn't know him. No one up here. He's gone. He's not here. Didn't know Harriet. Love her. She not here no more. We're here. Black Panthers. They're The ones that are gone, they're gone. Like, what do the people need now? And we can use those theories, but theories weren't here for us to just make them be the new electoral god that we just there for praxis and to build upon. Theory is about building upon. So why is it fantastical? And if it's fantastical and ideological and can't happen, okay, move towards it. I don't know. That is part of creating to me. Deconstruct and create a reality that like you might not be able to see tangibly, but if you can't even see forward towards something that is not yet here, how are you going to have faith that you can create? It just doesn't. Why is that? Why? And who gives a fuck if it is ideological? It was ideological for them to be like, we're not going to be in chains one day. Like
That's always what I come back to. I'm like, the fact that these niggas got out of slavery is bananas, okay? Because they was not going to get out of slavery.
at all. So like, I don't know.
They was not. They would. The fact, like, do you understand how you are in the field, like, we got to get out of this shit. And you're in your house, like, we can't get out of this shit. Like, that's crazy to me, right? But I think that also speaks to, like, our comfort, gives us a much smaller threshold for imagination.
I think there's also just this enormous level of energy among like Gen Z and even younger than that, and politics almost exists to like extinguish their flame, right? They're like, you should run for office, like Harry Sisson or some guy that likes going for Biden, right? It's like, yeah, what is the absolute ceiling you can hit if you're gonna be a Democrat, right? You can be like, I'm gonna wear a kente cloth and kneel down, right? Like as you said, you know what I mean? Like that's literally your limit, right? Because, like you said, billionaires own the Democratic Party, they own the Republican Party, and you're gonna get your first taste of like access and wealth, and then all your idealism is gonna go away. So, like, you see what's happening with like Target right now, right? Like, they are really hurting, right? There is a ton of energy behind like BDS movements, right? And if you can get young people to get their friends to stop buying a certain thing, that's way more effective than them, I don't know, being a council member or something, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Real quick, can I please have some water? For all of us. I'm so thirsty.
We have
Are
water.
you thirsty too? I'm talking, my mouth is dry. Okay.
Well, one thing that I think is important, like art and culture, politics, we've been told, is only for a certain group of people to do. So if we don't expand our definition of politics, then we'll be caught up in their definition of politics, which is the one that limits us from taking political action every day. I think it's important for us to understand that every action we take is political. Where we shop, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, all of it is political. You know, feminists said it a long time ago. The personal is political. How we raise our kids, how we engage in relationships that are interpersonal relationships, all of that shit is political. And if we understand that, we understand then that electoral politics is a tactic. And is a tactic for both those who have political and economic power and those who are fighting for it. For many decades, there have been third parties in this country. And it's not that we go into the electoral politics thinking we're going to win. Because anyone who thinks that without having a strong independent movement, we would have the capacity to win politically is naive. We need a movement first that backs electoral politics. We need to win the hearts and minds of people so that they could express that at the ballot box. If that doesn't happen, we're going to continue to be in this cycle. And that's why they put so much of an effort saying, you know, well, the third parties are in shit, but at the same time blame us when one of them loses.
But
right?
does participate? So, like, I feel like participating in it at this point, it feels like participating in it like they do ends up kind of like perpetuating.
Yeah, it validates their system. And they call it a protest vote, right? That's what they call it. But voting with your values is different, right? We have an entire population of people who don't vote. And I personally don't judge them because how can you judge people for not caring about the level of politics that doesn't care about them? Yeah. You can't judge that. However, it's also important to note that there's a reason why there's voter suppression mainly in the south of this country. because they also want to silence voices of people who understand voting as their political right and who don't have access to it. So we have to deal with that duality. And so when we intervene as socialists, I'm speaking as socialists, when we intervene in electoral politics, we do it to be able to raise people's consciousness of what is possible, that imagination. It is possible for us not to have to live under a system that prioritizes war rather than life. It is possible for us to create a system that is built on solidarity, not invasions. It is possible with the wealth of this country to be able to have access to health care. These are the things people feel in their guts. In many ways, electoral politics is also an entry point. Just like mobilizations are, electoral politics also become an entry point for folks to get organized into organizations. And so that is the reason why we intervene. One thing that I always like to remind people is that there was a man called Eugene Debs in the 1920s. Eugene Debs, a socialist who was an anti-war activist, was imprisoned. And as a socialist in the 1920s, he was able to gain over 1 million votes. Socialism is not something that is foreign. It's not something that we can't think about being able to develop in this country as a actual opposition to the capitalist system. People are thinking about it and have been thinking about it and have been working towards it for decades. But how do we reach people at different points? Not everybody is at the point of going to a mobilization. Not everybody is at the point of reaching independent media. Whenever there's elections, everyone is talking about elections. And so how do we intervene in that space to make sure that people know that duopoly is not the only thing? And actually organizing goes beyond electoral politics.
Is there a version? Hey, that ringtone was popping. Is there a version? I still have a ringtone. Yeah, it's Jay Dilla. You know, it's Jay Dilla. You know what love is. Is it possible? Does anyone here think it's possible for socialism to exist within the current electoral framework?
Why do you think socialism became the actual word for the mayoral campaign here in New York, in the belly of the beast, like the financial heart? Because people in the United States are coming on to understand that socialism is not the enemy.
But they're like beating it out of it.
They're beating it out of it, and at the same time, there's a reason why the Democratic Party, in its liberal branch, is now assuming. I could be wrong. You could fact check me if I'm wrong. Why the liberal branch of the Democratic Party is utilizing the word socialism as an attractive word. Because the majority of the people in this country understand capitalism to be its enemy. There have been polls about this. And so if people don't believe in the American dream anymore, if people don't believe that capitalism is a system that it's actually going to give them what they need, that alternative that they've been put off for so many years is socialism. Let me find out what socialism is.
Right, and you're always going to hit the argument of like, oh, but socialism has never worked in any country. And if you educate yourself even this much, you can slap down that argument immediately, right? You can be like, no, that's because capitalism came in and overthrew that. And then they have nothing to say, right? These arguments are just like skin deep, right? There's absolutely nothing behind them. And if you are willing to engage with people in good faith, which is, I don't know how you guys feel, but I hope Zoran does win and even implements like a little bit of his, agenda, because if it's shown to work, if we get free buses or universal pre-K, it will spread. And the system's not going to know how to handle that, it's going to be inevitable. Go ahead.
But I still think that even if he does win, it's such a watered down version that sometimes I don't know that. Sometimes I just feel like maybe the incremental is not actually as effective because it's sometimes, as someone who has dated many narcissists, it feels like the breadcrumbing that keeps you complacent and keeps you stuck, right? And so then on the other hand, I feel like, okay, but Amanda, like you can't also be the one that's like, burn it down, because then, you know, you're acting as if that's not going to affect other people when it is going to affect everybody. Ooh. Burn it down.
Right.
Turn
it down.
The feds was like, turn it down.
Turn it
But
down.
these are the things that I think about on a regular basis. Angie's gonna say what she has to say, and then we're gonna open the floor for questions. All right? So,
All right.
no pressure.
I'm going to say what I have to say.
Yes, say it.
Yeah, so let's talk about electoral politics in the U.S., right? When's the last time they gave us an option that we wanted, right? Long time, right? When's the last time we voted on something, right? Most of the time we are waking up in the middle of the night with our rights being repealed, right? You wake up and they're like, hey, abortion's gone. You wake up, they're like, hey, that's gone, right? And then you have to fight for it back, right? And that's the other issue, right? Is because we go for these reforms, right? But just like that, you fight years for a reform, and then in a second, it gets rolled back, right? And then people lose their hope, people lose their desire, right? And so that's why we have to fight to reform the entire, or destroy the entire system, right? So because of my work in Cuba, right, I was able to witness, what voting looks like, right? And I want to talk about the family code in Cuba and how that was formed, right? So Cuba had its revolution, kicked out the U.S., right, creates a family code, right, that kind of lays out like, oh, these are all the rights of the people guaranteed, right? But, was it 2017? They look at it, they're like, hey, this doesn't actually reflect our society now, right? Because decades have passed. Looks like we need to revisit this. So,
Is the family code like a constitution?
Similar.
Like a Bill of Rights?
It's a Bill of Rights.
Yeah, it's a Bill of Rights. Yeah, it's, and too many hundreds of years. So 249 years. So Cuba, right, their revolution is 1959, right? We're looking like 60 years forward. They're like, hey, we got to refine this because it doesn't actually reflect shit, right? So they take their family code, they disseminate it out to society, right? 11 million people in Cuba, right? 100% literacy rate, right? So that means everyone can read. Everyone does understand their rights. Everyone can understand what's being implemented, right? They hold town halls because every block is organized, right? So everybody actually comes out to debate, like, okay, what needs to be, what actually do we deserve? What do we want? Right? So they host these town halls, and they do this for 3 years, right? Y'all are like, that's a long time. Okay, but it takes a long time to get the opinion of 11 million people summarized into one document. So they host a town hall, they get everyone's opinions, somebody sends in the summaries, they send it back out, right? A new document comes out, everybody sends in their opinions, right? And they're like, hey, okay, we gotta keep changing it until we actually reflect the will of the people. And when a document was finally produced that actually reflected the will of the people is when they put it to vote. So 3 years later, they're like, hey, we heard you, we got it, let's put it up to vote, right? At that point, I think 72% of the population came out to vote, right? And it passed with two-thirds approval rate, right? And you might be like, wow, 72, that's a lot. That's way more than we do here in the US. And I need you to know, people were voting during a hurricane evacuation in Cuba, right? Like they were getting evacuated. Also, that was provided by the government because when the hurricanes come, the same hurricanes that hit Florida, right? Cuba has a plan because their entire country is organized. So when the hurricanes come in, Cuba sends those school buses out, gets everybody on the bus, and brings them into safety. So their houses might be destroyed, but lives are not lost. And till today in the U.S., I'm from Houston, right? People don't have time. People don't leave. They can't leave, right? They can't afford it. They can't leave their job because they haven't got the clarity, like, from their boss to leave, right? And so when we're looking at socialism, we're looking at like, oh, this is actually, there are mechanisms, there are systems in which everyone here can be represented, right? Your opinions can be heard, right? We just haven't ever been presented that. So when our brains look at voting, we're actually looking at it's a non-system. Like these people weren't put here by you. These issues aren't yours. Like none of them represent you. So why in the hell would they ever present anything that is of interest to you, right? And so when people say, socialism, that's a utopia, it exists. It's out there. Like, right, and it is being sanctioned and blocked, right, to prove to us, to try to teach us that it can't exist. But guess what? They still have better health outcomes. They still have like better education. They have housing for all. They have all of this with no resources. And so when people tell you we can't do it, we are the working class. We have all the skills. We have all the ability. We have all the access to each other, and we can win this, right? So
we're going to go to questions, but I just want to say that I literally just saw a video where this elder Palestinian woman was like, we don't want your money. She's like, we don't want your money. Like, we don't want your access. We don't need none of that. We don't need your desalination machines. We don't need any of that. She was like, we can grow our own food. We don't need nothing from you. We can make our own water. We know how to take the salt out of the water. We just need you to leave us the fuck alone. That's it. We don't need anything from you. So let's go to the floor. Raise your hands. This person raised their hand first and foremost. So we're going to start with you. Wait, there's a mic next to you. And so here's one of the things that I want us to do this weekend. We need to stand and we need to speak. Because like Claudia pointed out, we be texting like a mofo. But we have to work on our public speaking, because public speaking isn't just doing it here. It's also doing it at dinners with like your family, which is a lot harder than speaking actually in front of strangers for some people. So be respectful and send out vibes to folks.
I don't know if this is a question, but I just kind of had an aha moment as we were talking about, dreaming of a euphoric world where we don't have to just limit ourselves to what's always been. And so, like, thinking about this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing and thinking about how, most older Americans still watch late night TV. I haven't watched a late night TV show in many years, but I actually think that socialism is so much closer to being what a lot of people on all sides of the spectrum are going to align with, because it's going to be harder to get people to tune into TV if they're so angry that you took away something that they loved. And it's going to turn people to people like Amanda Seales, where they're like, oh, actually, I heard about her. Maybe I'm going to watch her show because I'm not watching Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, it's forcing people to be less lazy about what they consume. And it's going to force people to actually say, like, you know what? Why can't we do it this way? And oh my God, are you saying there was the shirt that I'm wearing? This is Raza Unida. It was a Chicano movement, and they had people who had positions in LA, and they were aligned with the Palestinian movement in the 70s. And I held a fundraiser in my cafe for them. But it's like I never knew
Flex.
about them until they came into my space. And so it's like this is going to align a lot more people to the cause. And that's just my thought. I just had that moment.
What I
when you
love
said
is that you're thinking in a abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, because the abundance mindset of that is, if they're taking this away from him, there's something to acknowledge in that, right, about what they're doing and why they're doing it. But there's also, like you said, like it forces people out of comfort zones because now their zone is uncomfortable. And I don't know, y'all, but I've been having a lot of people tell me that they 65 plus grandmas and aunties is watching different things now and saying, well, now hold on now, that little baby got something to say. And I'm like, I am a little baby. I am a 44-year-old little
She's a baby girl.
baby.
I actually think a lot of people, I think the terms coming from academia, one of my issues with academia is the terminology. And I really think the terminology, love your words though. In what was it? In ostensibly? Inestimably. I think a lot of people actually do socialist shit. They don't call it that. Right. And I think when we tap into that, you know, it's kind of like when you talk to black Christians and they say that's demonic. Okay, but mama, you kept all your kids' teeth and hair in a that's very hoodoo to me. But like which, excuse me, still can't touch it. What you need my teeth for? It's mine. But anyways, and like if we just tap into what we're culturally doing, it's like, oh, we're kind of already doing that. And to the point of what happened to Jimmy Kimmel is since June, I've been in a writer's room with some people that I know, a black woman that I know, black comic. She was like, I want to do a late night TV talk show in New York. And I've been thinking about this for years. Her name is Chica in Brooklyn. Yeah, right? Just like a local, like, you know, local comics and stuff. I did. But we have been working on that. She posted it June. I've been wanting to do this for years. Who wants to help me? I need producers and writers. I've been doing that we meet every week. And our first show was the Thursday after Jimmy Kimmel got kicked off. Ooh. And I mean, but like that took years for her to be thinking of the idea. It took months for her to be like, I need help with it. And now we have not paid.
I was about to say, were you being paid to do this?
No, we weren't paid to do it.
We just did it because it needed to be done.
We just did it because we all had, and the writers' room is a mix of people. We've got good, high-quality whites. We've got black people, queer people, and it's a mix of people. And it was all just folks that she knew that we were like, we want this. We want like a late-night spot, like TV show type of thing where we could talk about shit we want to talk about. She had a segment with like the Working Families Party for people to talk about how to get organized. Like it was, and we were like, the fact that our first day, right? Because you have to get that booked a while back, was right after Jimmy Kimmel, is a type of spiritual tapping into a movement that you cannot make up. And when you have that idea and you're sitting on it, it is not on accident, and it's an idea that is not just your own. A lot of people are getting it. And when you move with the idea and you see it align with what's happening around you, that is the type of creativity that I'm talking about, and why I'm like, we do socialist things. We might just not call it that. But we always are like, I want something more, but we just have to believe and collaborate to actually get it done.
We have a lot of hands up. So I just want to make sure that we get to folks because we only have like 20 minutes. So, yeah.
Peace and can y'all hear me? Yeah. Cool. All right. Peace and blessings. My name's Glenn. I think that like to answer the question, I guess that you probably have to like agree or disagree.
Is this a question or a comment?
No, it's a question. I promise you. Yeah. But like the premise of the question is like, you know, troops are coming here to New York. It's about to get real mixy. Yeah. I think that like Trump wants a race war and is afraid of a class war. I think there's an opportunity for a yes and. From your perspective, how?
Okay. So yeah. Let me speak as a representative of the other side of the race war. Okay. So these people hate their masters too. These are 19 and 20-year-olds. I just came from DC that are bored and don't want to be doing this, right? And you don't want to talk to them as a group, right? You want to be like, you want to understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? Because it's usually an economic reason. And I think this takes away their power to be like, what are you doing? You're 19. Like, why? You could be doing anything right now. You know what I mean? And they're embarrassed. They feel shame. And you really have to, like, not view them as this big monolith that's coming towards you because they don't understand why they're doing it either. And there is no good reason. And we're on the right side. So it's, like, about, like, kind of defanging them and being like, you know, there's this guy that...
But I would say that it's the whites that have to defang the whites.
Okay, well,
I feel like for black people, like first of all, they don't see us as like, or non-white people, they just don't see us as like valid.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so I feel like that's why like you got to get your other high quality whites, and like there has to be organizing around defanging or defangation is the technical term. Because honestly, like it feels like labor for Black people.
Sure.
And it feels like walking into trauma. It feels like having to do like therapy on other people who like don't care about like your wellness. And so like then it takes us away from kind of like even having to deal with each other, right? Because I think that there's so much righteous anger on this side, and it's like, how do we kind of refine that anger so that we don't end up feeding into like the Trojan horse that I feel like is being sent in? Like, even though Trey Reed is not the first person that's been lynched.
That's right.
This year or in the past few years. So it's like, I feel like there's like, I think what you're calling attention to that's so important, Davidson, is that there are like very important vulnerabilities in the Death Star, but not everybody is the right fighter pilot to get to it.
Right. Yeah. So if you have
You
the
kinda
ability,
do
the
look like Luke
inclination,
Skywalker, I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Yeah, but I think like there are unanswerable questions on the other side. The first one is why. You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this? And if you have the ability, the inclination, basically, if you're white, find your bravery and walk up to them and be like, where are you from? Like, why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Like, and we can start to make them lay down their arms, hopefully.
I think it's also important to take into consideration the dismantling of organizations with class consciousness. There were white organizations in the 60s and 70s that had class consciousness. Racist as fuck, but had class consciousness. And this was the possibility that, listen, that was a possibility that someone like Chairman Fred Hampton had to be able to go into a white community and speak to white people and say, hey, we know you don't like us. Right. We don't like y'all either. But we have the same enemy. And the same enemy is the one that doesn't allow us to have adequate health care, that doesn't allow us to have adequate housing, that doesn't allow us to be able to feed our babies. So we got to fight together. And there was a coalition that was created that was then unfortunately disbanded because they started seeking out these leaders and killing them or jailing them. Because the worst like nightmare of the system is having poor people come together to fight capitalism. And so if we don't have the ability, if you don't have the ability as someone from any ethnic or racial class to organize your people, then what are we doing? And we also need to conceptualize the fact that this country is a multinational country. Yeah. It's a multinational country. It's not only Black and white. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of other racial identities, right? And so in that, we have a large working class people. And so if we cannot identify where our strength lies and continue to fight the fight they've imposed on us, that is not our fight, really. They've imposed it on us because there is such thing as plantation politics. And that continues to happen. And so we need to go into history and identify moments in history where people have understood that. Malcolm understood it. Fred Hampton understood it. And when Martin Luther King understood it, all of them liberals were like, I don't want to go there. You're on your own, you know? And then there
we could trust you.
then there were high quality whites that were killed because they stood by the side of MLK, by the side of Malcolm, by the side of the Black Panther Party. Marilyn Buck, look her up. Marilyn, I want white friends that are Buck like Marilyn. Because she went to prison. She was a political prisoner, and before that, she was a, ¿cómo se llama? Like someone who was claimed to be a Black Panther, being white.
A white panther?
Yeah. Look her up, Marilyn
Panther
Buck.
Blanca?
But a lot of people talk about allyship. A whole lot. I want allies. No, I want comrades. Comrades are people that are willing to go to the end with you and die for your cause.
I have a whole bit about this. Yes. Like there's allies who are like, we're here with you, but they're not seeing you as them. They're still looking at you as an other, right? The difference is people who say this is our fight. And so I'm going to take an L if I have to, and knowing that depending on your skin color, depending on your class, et cetera, your L will be different. So we had we had an organizer that was here earlier, Olivia Danucci, and like Olivia was on Views from AmandaLand, and she was talking about the work that she does. She's the one who'd be running up on these folks on Capitol Hill and be like, "Why are you doing the genocide?" And you're like, "Yes, Olivia." And she is a very tall white woman, and
She around.
But
She
she
around.
talks about how she's like, "Yo, I know that I can get away with things that other folks can't. So like if we're doing an activation, I'm going to put myself in places where I know I need to move my comrades out of the way so that I can be there to be like, do you know my father?" You know, like that's.
Thank you.
I don't.
What's up, everybody? My name is Dante. Thank you for having me. Thank you for putting this on. I'm gonna
Dante,
ask-
are you the fourth member of Voice to Men?
I'm not.
Hey, girl. I know we've been having a tough time, but if you would just listen to me.
Not the tongue.
I'm gonna swallow my pride.
Thank you.
The blame
Thank
is
you.
on me. I want a new life, and I want it with you. It'll feel the same. Don't ever let it go.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna ask this question in a few different ways just to kind of like spin some perspective on it. But I'm curious to know, is all organizing good organizing? Are we all working towards the same goal, or are we all just working under the same umbrella? And like.
The first question was a 20-minute answer.
My bad. Because I'm just curious, because I hear on one side, we need more black politicians to go into the system and make the system work for us. But on the other side, they not, all Kim folk ain't skin, all skin folk ain't, But on the other hand, we hear that the system was created by oppression to oppress, and so the objective is to overthrow the system. What is the goal? And we hear that, socialism, we operate under socialistic ideas, right, without calling it socialism. Is that a way in? Is that a way to start to make the change happen from the inside, from the outside, by just implementing these socialistic ideas without calling it socialism? Like, what are we doing, I guess is my question.
Dante, I got you.
You go, and then I want to.
I got you.
My bad.
What are we doing?
First and foremost, not all organizing is good, right? Because we mentioned the billionaire class, organized as hell. They are organized as hell, and they have the money, okay, to fund their organizations. So not all organizing is good organizing. I personally do not believe that you can change a system that was built to oppress you and exploit you from the inside. There is no changing that. Right? You can't, there's no like, hey, if we just do this little piece. No, it will be squashed. You will be put out. Or you will have to operate within the system. That is actually how it is built, right? So there is no like, we're going to throw some socialist ideas in this, right? Because all of the tools and the operations that the system puts out will not allow you to actually provide socialism, right? So you might have like little pockets here and there, like maybe we will get free buses, right? But that overall is not socialism, right? That is just meeting the needs of the people, right? Socialism is everyone in power, like the working class in power, right? So just because something is good for people doesn't mean that that is socialism operating in our society, right? Socialism is an entire system. It is not one ideology, right? Does that make sense?
I also, I agree with that too. I don't think that what did you say? You said it, right? What you can't change the, no, right. Master, we all know, right? Okay. I do think you can shit.
So she was a Zionist and ruined June Jordan's life, but that's another conversation.
Damn. Well, add it to the list of things to be disappointed in. But there's another one. Thank you. Another one. But to the point. But that kind of goes into my point that I want to bring up, which is, goddamn, what the fuck was I finna say?
You were about to say master's tools.
Something about that. Yes. Oh, I think you can chip away at it to make it weaker to dismantle, which is what I think the other things are. I think you can, but that isn't even my point. My point is, I don't think we talk enough about personal, personal, because you can dismantle and dismantle a system all you want, but the system is made of people. And if people aren't undoing and deconstructing their bullshit, then we're just gonna build the same system, because in Burkina Faso, you've got Traoré, he's doing great things, and then criminalize homosexuality. Why the fuck are we in it? Why are queer Africans in it all of a sudden, right? Because you haven't deconstructed enough the aspects of white supremacy in the system that you're built into in order to actually rebuild something new away from it. So, back to what Claudia was saying about not every organization is perfect, and like culture, and like you're gonna find the gaps and stuff. I think that's true even within ourselves and with people. And like, yes, attacking the system and trying to dismantle it, maybe even chip away at it, and while doing that, undo the shit and realize your own spots where you're like, damn, that's where I'm indoctrinated, because we're not gonna be able to rebuild anything. That's why we have black capitalists or people that are like, black politicians are the way to go. It's like, because
I think that would be valid if the people chipping away knew that they were playing the chip away role of the bigger picture, right? And which I don't feel like is the case. I feel like there's like people who chip away who don't share the bigger goal. Like, cause we all have different like strengths. So if I'm thinking about it in like a literal form, there's people who are just about it in a different way, right? So if there was a tiered system that all had the same goal, and some people were like, well, I'm not bad about it like that, but I'm gonna chip away about it, then that would make sense to me. But I don't feel that way. Like the people that I think that the people that are doing the quote unquote chip away, to me, it's not that they're chipping away, it's that they're like shallow in their analysis, right? So they're not able to really chip away because they're not making way for those who are doing the bigger chipping. They're like in the way.
They might be shallow in their analysis, but I want to bring in the interest piece. Interest piece. There is a political agenda and there are personal political interests.
Yes.
There are those who know exactly how the system works, go into politics to make money. They don't go into politics to change people's lives. Because ultimately, right, and they're willing to proclaim to be the heroes of the people and say certain things that may sound nice, but at the end of the day, the decisions that they make advance the interests of the capitalists and the billionaires and the wealthy, not the people.
Yeah.
And so we need to understand how people are making decisions and why, and what personal and political interests do they have in standing by Biden during a genocide with Ray-Bans.
I think it's
I think also, in addition to that, in understanding kind of the class interest and understanding all of that, no, there's no way of reforming the system. However, the reforms that we do have have been won by the people. They haven't just freely granted those reforms.
Oh, yeah. It's very here
and so we cannot kind of do away with the reforms that and allow them to take them away.
Right.
We cannot. We got to fight to defend those reforms, but we should not be reformist.
Yeah.
I have a good friend that once asked me, who taught you to live on crumbs?
On what?
On crumbs.
Oh.
And it's very similar to what Malcolm said. Who taught you to hate yourself? Like, who taught us that free buses is the high standard? Who told us that free lunch is the high standard? Ooh. Who told us that, you know what I'm saying, getting loans to be able to go to school is what we should aspire to? So therefore, that's the fucking bare minimum. Ain't nothing radical about that. Radical is a whole transformation of the system.
Saturday church.
And I think the chip away, I know, I'll be 1 minute. I think the chip away, the people who want to chip away for the interest, no. But when we see people get interested into like organizing and they get introduced by what happened in a chip away, then you take them and you're like, and then there's more. Like, yes, a free bus can happen, and come over here, a little indoctrination this way to be like, here's the bigger goal. If you can't do this, you can chip away, but you have to understand you're chipping away for this bigger goal, not to chip away to just stay there.
Okay, so we're going to take 3 more questions, and we as a panel agree as a socialist decision to answer expediently and efficiently for the power of the people.
Power of the people.
Like, real quick, I just want y'all to know, I keep forgetting, like, these are people who all want to be here to talk about this shit. Like, I'll start to be like, are we boring them? And I'm like, they're here for this.
So this isn't really a question. It was just part of what.
Yeah, look, we need 3 questions. We need 3
I
questions.
can't say something?
We need 3. People have actual questions, so we need to get those first. We need to get actual questions
But people want to talk, like you said.
I know, but we need to get actual questions first.
So my question is kind of bouncing off that idea of how we approach people that are on the right or conservative. And I think along with class consciousness, which we've been talking about, a lot of people post Charlie Kirk, post Jimmy Kimmel, now have these conspiracy theories.
Y'all got to ask your questions quick, too, though.
Okay.
How do we approach people?
And they have mistrust in the government, right? So how do you talk to these people without triggering them, without using words that might, again, like socialists? Like how in your experience have you approached these people and kind of had a productive conversation with them?
I just want y'all to know that Fatima also be doing like long ass sentences in the chat on Views from AmandaLand. Like I always know it's a Fatima sentence because she's giving us a paragraph to tell us how to use a word properly. So thank you for being you in real life and in digital. And analog and digital. And Kim, we are absolutely coming back to you. I just want to get the 3 questions. You traveled all the way from LA. We're going to get you.
You want to do all the questions at once, or can I do it direct?
Oh, do you want to do that?
Maybe 3 questions at once.
3 questions at once, and then we answer.
Everyone agrees? 3 questions at once? We all agree? All
Look at
right.
us.
All the yays say yay? Yay. All right. So let's take 2 more questions.
So, socialist autonomous. Occupied.
Hi, my name is Adrienne, and my question's a little different. It's not so much about the system, because I'm not an organizer, but when I've worked with groups, even if we're just trying to form a group, a book club, whatever we're trying to form, we always get, even if it's Black-led, it's not even from the system, we end up replicating and getting into sexual misconduct, colorism, ego, domestic violence, patriarchy. All of these things are internal, and I wanted to ask experienced organizers, you see movements, they come, they evolve, your relationships with your comrades grow through the decades. How do you, 1, take care of yourself when these things happen, but how do you keep the momentum of the organizing you're trying to do when this internal serious stuff is going on?
Hi, my name is Jonathan. First of all, thank you guys for being here. But to be quick, I'm going to put myself on blast. So it's regarding the system. I know you guys, some of you...
Are you the op?
No.
Okay.
He's
like, I came here to snitch on y'all, but you changed me, and I want to ride with y'all.
No, so my wife listens to you every single day. You're constantly in the background. She's right here. I didn't mean to get up and speak on this, but regarding the whole system and whether trying to chip away at it or not, I myself am actually running for a local town council so I can try to bring some change into the town. For example, even trying to pass an ordinance where no federal agent can come in covering their face. I've spoken to the mayor.
Are you campaigning right now? Because I'm going to cut you off if you are.
No, not trying to campaign. Just trying to see, is there a point for somebody like myself or other people to try to get into politics to even remotely try to change it from the local, very down bottom, to try to bring that progressive socialist mindset to the town and community at large?
I can answer that real quick. I believe that local is the only way because ultimately, when I talk to a lot of like local politicians, they are able to impact things on the ground like in an immediate way. However, there is a ceiling, right? And so what happens for a lot of local politicians, though, is that they don't want to remain local politicians. They are actively trying to move on up. And so they forsake the capabilities of being a local politician in order to appease to these higher ups who don't give a fuck about what you're talking about. And so therefore, they then forsake their people. If local politicians were actually operating as public servants and going into it with the concept of I'm coming in here to do this and go back to my other job or go back to this or, go back to painting still lifes, of my cat, then that would be more practical. Unfortunately, though, we live in a very hierarchical, competitive, political career mindset in this country where people don't do that. And so if that's what you want to do that. That's the answer.
Oh, what I was gonna say is like our understanding of electoral politics, right? And politics in general, like we have the ability to make changes without having to be in electoral politics. And I think we have to kind of like let that sink in. Because you could be an elected official and be very divorced from what the people want. You're going from what you think the people want. And so unless, again, there is a structural change, there are limitations to what you could do at any level of electoral politics. And the only way we remain accountable to the community is if we are from and of community. And if we are part of organizations that hold us accountable, that are okay with saying, well, you know what, you're going against what you said you were going to go against, and go for, and we're going to organize against you. Like, we need that. And so I think understanding, though, that when we're talking about politics, is something larger than electoral. And gaining power and transforming is also something that could come from the people and should come from the people.
So I just wanted to answer your question really quickly. I know how odious it is to talk to like racist people that don't think you need rights, you know what I mean? And like trying to convince them of anything is ridiculous, but I think you can use their conspiratorial thinking against them, right? Because right-wing movements are top-down and left-wing movements are bottom-up, right? So if you emphasize to them that they're being manipulated, right? Like the Cato Institute was founded by the Koch brothers, right? So it's like you're thinking what a billionaire wants you to think, right? And that is a very powerful being like, oh, you think I'm being manipulated? You are being manipulated, right? Like, here's the proof, I find that my brother's right wing, you know what I mean? And every time he's like, it's not right or left or right, it's top versus bottom. I'm like, well, yeah, and you're on the side of the top, And I think that really gets to them, you know what I mean? So I think people have different levels of tolerance for this stuff. I'm pretty much sick of it at this point. Like, I don't really want, I don't really want to I'm like, okay, you don't think people should have equal rights? Fuck you. You know what I mean? But like, but it's not, but if they are willing to engage with you on that, like on a deeper level, and they want, like, you can tell them that they're being manipulated, and that works. Yeah.
There's also just like not thinking you're going to get something from them. Right? Like, do it for yourself. Do it just nut on them with knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like, just...
I think...
and then go about your
now
life.
You're talking my language.
All right. Okay.
Hello.
It's hard to follow that up.
She wrote it down. And then just go about your day. Because I think we be like trying to like get real. We be trying to get like a real response in real time. And sometimes it's like, no, like you have to wait. Like you have to do what you do and go about your life. And that ends up marinating in someone's head. Do you date cisgendered heterosexual men? You're married to one. So like, that like it's rare that the conversation that's happening in real time is going to get real results. Like you understand, like I'm saying this to you and then I have to go about my life because you need to go simmer and come back 2 hours later and be like, I just want to know, I apologize, Like that's just what it is.
I think I want to also hit on your question, right? Because a lot of you don't know, I was raised as a young white conservative in Texas. Right?
Hello?
Because there's a long story, but I'm biracial. Okay, so I had to go to college to know I was brown. Okay, I had to watch this YouTube video, and I was like, oh my God, right? So being someone who was on the right, and now I'm all the way over here. Okay, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, it's a waste of time. They hate all these people. They don't. They're in the same situation we are. They are under the same conditions we are. They don't have health care. They don't have rights to education and housing, any of those things, right? So you need to speak to the needs. You speak to the needs that you need, that they understand, right? Because a lot of people, I have faced so much homophobia in my life, and turns out people love me, right? So it turns out they're not really that homophobic, right? And so you have to understand, yeah, okay, I was operating that way as well until I went to college, but until I saw the YouTube video, right? I'll put that in our resources. I'll put that in our resources. But no, honestly, so when I talk to people, and I do all day long on the subway, waiting for the bus, wherever I am, I'm talking to people because I understand my job as an organizer is to fight for everyone and to bring them into the fight, right? So I don't discriminate. I don't care what you look like, maybe if you smell, but like literally, I am talking to everybody. I'm figuring out what motivates them, and I'm pulling them in regardless of where they stand.
I wanted to touch on that. The material needs are the starting point. And also having a level of compassion. Because there are a lot of grievances that have been unresolved, for which they've been told that the ones to blame are the sect of people, whatever they are. Immigrants, black people, whatever you want to call it. And so I think it's important having a level, like, yeah, like I get mad. I'm hot-headed. Yeah. Like the Caribbean just boils in me every time I hear some shit. But there's also the reminder that I'm not where I am because of an instant change. There was a process, and there were people who invested in that development. And so we also need to be intentional about investing time with our working class people that unfortunately have had a lot of ideological backwardness imposed on them. And that's across the races. Across the races. And so I think that the level of compassion that we would want folks to have for us is the one that we need to also express to people without burning the bridge, unless at the core, their value, right? No, their values are connected inherently to what destroys you. Then that's different, right? But there are people who are not ideologically married to racism, patriarchy, all that shit. They've learned it, and they can unlearn it as well. And so the question of organization, I think it's important to understand organization in a different way. Like, there need to be core values and core agreements that we come into. And if there aren't core values, and if there aren't processes of how to deal with the baggage that we bring into our organizations because we have been trained by capitalism, by patriarchy, by white supremacy. If we don't have those mechanisms of accountability, then it's very easy for us to spend our whole entire time talking about grievances that are interpersonal and not about what we have to deal with. So being able to have lines of politics, like what is it that we agree on, and what type of behavior is like the one that we accept, and what type of behavior, we don't accept, and what are the consequences? Taking also into consideration what I just said. I worked very closely with an arts collective in the Bronx where young people would come in and say the most homophobic, patriarchal shit when it was open mic. And that was not our point of departure to say, you can't come here anymore, because we understood that they were coming in with the values of capitalism. But we had an intentionality of help organize people. That event was a tactic to identify who are the folks that were willing to move with the organization. And so we need to have that understanding that our people are not going to come into this shit knowing everything, speaking the correct language, having I've been in places where if you don't share your pronoun, then there's a problem. I'm 44. That shit wasn't around when I came up in organizing, so I had to relearn. Yeah. Yeah, when it dropped. When it dropped. And I have to say this, the connection with academia, professionalizing, organizing, has been a problem for organizing in the grassroots, because we don't have the ability to connect with our people who don't know shit about pronouns. But we want to impose that shit. We have to walk with our people to the point they understand it before they use it.
That's so good. I feel hot. I like, oh, do we want a revolution? Whoop, whoop. That's how I feel. Whoop, Whoa, whoa, do you want a revolution? I said, woo. Your question. I feel so passionate about because that a lot of what I would consider my organizing is in the book club, but like I'm in a lot of those spaces, the somatic spaces, the book clubs. I'm talking to the niggas in Brooklyn, you know. And the niggas in Brooklyn, even though they have a tote bag and a dangly earring. Don't let that bent bell hooks book fool you. Them niggas are the worst.
They will mansplain you to
death. They will struggle, baby. I found myself in a book club one time, right, where the men weren't able to talk for once. And someone was like, but one of the women, one of the girls, but I feel like we don't want to hear their emotions. And I thought we were gonna make ground. And I went, yes, we don't. We don't sometimes. And then everyone got clammed up and I said, we haven't done work. But anyways, I'm going to elevate some words. Are you aware of Dr. Resmaa Menakem?
If you are not, you can listen to the Small Doses podcast episode with Dr. Resmaa
Hello.
Menakem called Side Effects of the Quaking of America.
I put this in my bag today and I didn't know why. But I said, I'm gonna put this in my bag. Quaking of America. He is Quaking of America's Monsters in Love, and then My Grandmother's Hands. Racialized trauma and the pathway to mending our hearts and bodies. I'm going to read, in the beginning, he starts, do not cross this line without authorization, and it's warnings to people who are going to be pissed if they believe this stuff. And I'm going to read 2 of them, and then I'll try to be quick, but it's just so important to me, right?
They have to eat lunch.
You're right. If you see white supremacy as a belief system or ideology in this book, you will discover a fraction of it exists in our cognitive brains. For the most part, white supremacy lives in our bodies. In fact, white supremacy would be better termed white body supremacy, because every white-skinned body, no matter who inhabits it, automatically benefits from it. Right after that. If you are convinced that ending white supremacy begins with social and political action, do not read this book unless you are willing to be challenged. We need to begin with the healing of trauma in dark-skinned bodies, light-skinned bodies, our neighborhoods, communities. Social and political actions are essential, but they need to be part of a larger strategy of healing, justice, and creating room for growth in traumatized flesh and blood bodies. That, and I've just started it. Each chapter ends with like a very body-centered practice, but the epigenetics, Dr. Joy DeGride, she did the post-traumatic slave syndrome, and Dr. Resmaa Menakem, talking about the way that it actually shows up in our bodies, even before we're cognitively aware of it, is why I think that shit continues to happen. So somatic healing, and having those people that know literally how to work with that energy. And when it comes out, back to the question about how to talk to people. I found myself because I get riled up too, I'm a Scorpio. I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Hello. But I was at a pro-Palestine protest. I found myself at Union Square, walking into it. So I was like, oh, period, I'm gonna be here. And there was obviously Zionists there who were just trying to rile folks up, and there was some kerfuffles happening. And there was a man there who was playing guitar on the pro-Palestine side. So I was like, period, they got him right at the front. He's playing music, da-da-da, whoop-de-whoop. Me and him talk after. And he's like, that was crazy, wow. I was just sitting here, and then this all happened. And I was like, I thought he was a part of the organized protest. I said, you just was here playing your music? And he was like, well, I just had my guitar, and I wasn't playing yet. And then the protest happened, and then they came, and I started playing. And I was like, oh, say fucking less. You were on the same side as me. But he started expressing, I just don't know what's going on. And, I know both, wars, both sides. And I feel hold on. I hear the groan. Yeah. But in that moment, I saw that man was on the same side as me. His body was he was in the front of the violence. And I was like, this isn't the time for me to pester you with a bunch of knowledge. I just need to pick up what you're talking about and then show you what you did. You didn't know all the knowledge. And he was like, I know people are starving, and I know, and it's just the violence scares me. That was scary to me, because he was like, I was stood here, I played, but it scared me. And I was like, and you still stayed, because you used the energy around you as an artist. I was like, you're creative, and you transmuted it. And you felt that this was the side you wanted to be on. You can always learn more knowledge, right? There's always going to be more to learn. But the fact that he stayed, I stuck with that. and was like, you didn't even know fully, but you felt like this was the side you wanted to be on. Your body knew. And that was really helpful for me because I'm quick to be like, but I'm like, it made me pull back because I was like, if I hit him with a bunch of terms he might not know, he might. And what was important about that was there was a Zionist bitch. Ooh. I don't give a fuck. She pissed me off right next to us, trying to get people to be on their side. So now I'm combating it in real time that I'm like, let me stick here with this person and be like, and reaffirm his decision because what he was expressing was like, did I do the right thing? I don't know. You did. And all you need to know is just a little bit of knowledge, and I can give you resources for that. But you stayed here. And then we followed each other, and it just taught me that it's beyond the knowledge, and it's about people being able to inhabit the knowledge in their bodies.
So that brings me to the close. And I know this speaks to something, so I want to just tell a quick little story to close this. So I have been considering pursuing a PhD. And so I've been like on this journey for a year now of like, okay, I'm going to get this PhD, I'm going to get this PhD, I'm going to get this PhD. And so it came down to me going to a colloquium where they were having a conversation at the program that I was interested in. And it was like master's students. There was me and another PhD possible person. And then they had like professors in the program. And so we were there talking about like two topics that the two professors at the front were talking about. And I won't even expound upon this, but basically over the course of this colloquium, I realized, I actually don't need to get a PhD, and I don't need to actually be in the institution, right? I don't need to be in this space. I'll tell you the full story. But when I left there, I was like, but I know that I'm still supposed to do something though, like knowledge-wise. And I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it, and kept thinking about it, and what came to me was, the knowledge that you're talking about, it is still knowledge. We have to get a metaphysical knowledge. Like, we have to acknowledge that as an integral part of our resistance work, right? And unfortunately, that has not been an integral part of our resistance work, and it's been very treated as kind of like a thing that might be like your it might be your hobby though, right? Like all the astrology girlies, it's like a hobby, but actually astrology has been used in many movements for evil. So it's like there is something valid to understanding that, even herbology, right? And being able to actually understand the plants of the world and how they heal and how they can sustain us. This is all knowledge, right? Understanding Reiki, understanding energy exchange, understanding healing. Like she's talking about, you're healing yourself. This is a type of knowledge that I feel has actually not been centered enough in our resistance work, and has made our organizing much more vulnerable to being infiltrated. I've been trying to think of the word infiltrated for 3 hours. To be infiltrated. So when we talked about, over the course of this panel, we've talked about so many methods of organizing, so many entry roads, so many responsibilities that we can take on, and so many obligations that we actually have as like well-humored, well-conditioned people. One of the things is I believe, have to not only strengthen our knowledge, our resolve, our courage, we have to strengthen. We have to strengthen our souls, right? We have to strengthen our souls, and it's no surprise that the first thing that they extricate from folks is their connection to their spirituality, right? Their spiritual practice. So what I'm saying is not necessarily like, wow, let me write it down. Like when I said to nut on them with knowledge, like that was something that made you write it down. What I'm saying though is that we can't think of this as like esoteric. And so I decided, Amanda, you need to create like your own PhD of metaphysical resistance. Yes. So like that's what I'm forming for myself, like a 4-year program for myself that studies resistance within a metaphysical space, as well as like how that is, and how that applies, right? And how we can apply that in real ways.
You need a cohort?
Claudia be momming me all the time. She be like, look at you, girl, kiddo. You'll apply. So like that to me is where I feel like I landed once I was able to get out of the institution. But for some people, let me just say this. I've been very fortunate that I always get kicked out of spaces. Some of y'all ain't getting kicked out, so that means you got to step out, okay? And you have to find the ability to do that. I oftentimes, though, they be like, get out of here! And I'm like, wait, but there's something better. And so I feel very fortunate that it's always like a force that pushes me in the right direction. I thank you all for being forced and pushed in the direction of joining us today here at Cracking Up the System at the first ever AmandaLand Summit. Please understand that, for those of you who pay for tickets, that supports mine and the work here at TPF. And there's also a whole setup of my AmandaLand Exports merch table over there because I am now a merchant of not only my mind, but of my products. So, when you are supporting, you are literally supporting, like me paying my property taxes. So, because I still am in the system. But can y'all please give a round of applause for Davidson Boswell, for Christina Brown, Claudia de la Cruz, and Anjelica Langdon. And give yourselves a round of applause. Thank y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope I'll see you later for the Views from AmandaLand Live. But before we go, Kimberly, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, what I was going to say was when we were talking about socialism, I was just going to say that we have a form of socialism. It just ain't for us. That the billionaires and the banks, they get bailed out. Does Main Street get bailed out? No. Did my parents' business get bailed out when the industry was changing? No. Did I get bailed out when I got divorced and I couldn't find a job? Was there any resources to help me? No. So it's for them. And they don't want us to understand what socialism is because then we'll realize that we're being fooled because they're the ones taking advantage of it. They're the ones that got on them PPP shits. Who got the PPPs? Anybody know anybody got a PPP? Oh, you did? Okay, all right, good for you. But I only got a PPP because I had a white business manager who put me on because he was putting the rest of his clients on to the PPP. But mine is legit. It's a legit PPP. So, and then they don't have the consequences of it. They take their little PPPs and they're supposed to pay, but whatever the hell, they're like, oh, well, they just don't have to pay. So it's for them. It's not for us. We do not have a socialist system for the masses. We have a small version of it for the wealthy class.
Okay, Kim.
Everyone, thank you so much.
All right. For our summit folk, if you could please head upstairs, lunch is ready for you, and our volunteers are there to receive you. We are on a tight schedule, so go ahead.
Oh, I want to take a picture.
Summit folks, please head upstairs. Lunch is ready.